I was starting in real estate, the five things that I would search for, work on, develop first before anything else, before you do that business card. The first thing I do is build a database, then I operate off a schedule. I would find some accountability. I would define who my avatars are, who I'm going to seek to work with, and then finally develop the language or the conversations that those people will expect to hear from me so that when I show up, it's consistent, I can deliver results, and I choose to end up working with people who are in alignment with me.
Let's talk real estate. Today we have Chris Hurley on from Scripts Jedi, and today we are going to be talking the 5 things that anyone should know before they dive headfirst into real estate. And remember to hit the like and subscribe button for more weekly content. Let's get going. Welcome to Let's Talk Real Estate, everyone. Today we have Chris Hurley. Chris, can you introduce yourself?
Well, thank you, Craig. My name is Chris Hurley, and I'm a licensed realtor in North Carolina and Texas. Also known as the Scripts Jedi. You'll see it on my hat, this lovely gift that I was given. But I've helped people for many years now grow their business in real estate. And through the pandemic, also got in tune with this Zoom training concept and have maintained a very consistent Scripts training program that we've run on Zoom now for coming up on year number 3 we're entering into. So we're really excited about this type of opportunity. And though the market before us was exciting with how much people were getting for sales, I'm actually looking forward to this market because this is the market that I learned how to cut teeth in, and that the consultation part of our real estate game really thrives when you can dig deep and help people navigate this challenging, shifting, different market no matter where people are.
So today we are going to cover the 5 things that any person who wants to get their real estate license should know going into it. Number 1, this isn't HGTV.
It's not.
It's not.
I'm not going to get a big contract, Craig. This isn't where I signed up.
No.
Disappointing.
So, all right, Chris. So what do you think are the 5 things that every realtor, every person going into real estate should know? And then we can break them down.
And it's interesting you asked me to theme up this topic and to come down to 5 things so we could compartmentalize it in a really practical YouTube episode gives some basics, but I certainly don't want to think this is the be-all, end-all. But if I was starting in real estate, the 5 things that I would search for, work on, develop first before anything else, before you do that business card. The first thing I do is build a database, then I operate off a schedule. I would find some accountability. I would define who my avatars are, who I'm going to seek to work with, and then finally develop the language or the conversations that those people will expect to hear from me so that when I show up, it's consistent, I can deliver results, and I choose to end up working with people who are in alignment with me. And that's never taught in real estate school. Real estate school is the legal, but we have to navigate the intention. What do we intend to do with this license? And will it bring back to us what we've dreamed it would bring back?
Number 1, I always like to ask everyone, what is your big why for why you got into real estate before we break into those 5?
Well, I was in the real estate industry starting in the late 90s, and I built a big home inspection company in Houston in that time. And we worked a lot with investors. I can say I've probably walked most of the small and medium-sized multifamily projects in Houston, it seems like. We were doing anywhere from 300 to 500 units per year as a single inspector company. So that's pretty busy. It's more than an inspection per day in some cases. Some of those were small and medium-sized apartments. So it was a lot of fun. And there's one thing, Craig, you will learn about being outdoors in July in Houston.
Oh, God.
Do you know what that one thing is?
What?
It's hot. It's hot.
Yeah. I lived in Wichita for 2 years.
So it has some consistency with that.
Mm-hmm.
And you know what happens when you go up into a roof or in an attic, Craig,
Oh no.
in July?
Oh God, it's got to be boiling.
It's even hotter. It's even hotter.
Oh God.
So there was times I looked around and I said, what am I doing here? And there was this example of this amazing real estate team my wife had built. And they had been running full throttle since the dot-com boom in the 2000s. And I said, there's all these inside salespeople with air conditioning and free lunches, and I'm out here driving around the city of Houston, getting up on top of rooftops, crawling through attics, literally taking 2 or 3 showers in a given day just so I could maintain some composure when I'm with people. Because after 2, who wants to be on inspection number 3 with that day in July? Nobody. Oh, my gosh. So that showed me to look around, and I said, all right, what are some other options that I can use these talents and still stay in the real estate space? And that's how I ended up being in the sales side, because I had a great example and a team I could ride coattails off of into the future success that I'd achieve.
Oh, wonderful. What was our number one for getting into, well, what you should know before you get into real estate? Number one.
Number one, the most important thing you'll ever build and the most important thing you could ever acquire is a database. That the data sets that we work off of, if they're not strong, if they're not vetted, if they're not filtered, you can have tons of wasted time either dialing numbers that don't answer or dialing numbers when they answer, they have no idea who they are or they wouldn't use you anyway. Or they're people who've been unable to perform a sale or a purchase for some internal thing. So there's a lot of these things that get in the way of success because in real estate, it all looks like a shiny object. But the key for success is, do you have an audience who knows what you do, they like you, and then their life event arrives at a point where it's just natural. You've built that brand in their mind share. That you're that realtor for them. So the database is the most important thing. If I was going to move to your area, Craig, I could find an older, seasoned realtor, maybe retiring out of the business, and make a proposal to buy their business. And it's not about the number of signs or lock boxes that they have. It's about their database. It's about where their database is today, what they do inside of that database, and last year, how many deals came out of the database. And if you have a database that has a marketing cadence that works on a system and it produces some fruits, that's a worthwhile pursuit. Mm-hmm. The transactional pieces of business that come up are the shiny objects that require immediate attention and sometimes are not the best suited to receive it from us. They could get attention from somebody else who specializes in whatever their real estate challenge might be. But do you clearly know who your clients are going to be? And are they in a database that when they have a life event is natural for them to call you and say, hey, I remember we were supposed to do a real estate deal together.
Yeah.
So the key part is the database, and then the 4 pieces of the database. A database is built of contacts, and a contact isn't a contact unless you have a name, a phone number, a property address or piece of real estate that you consult with them about, and an email address so that you can automatically provide them content. And so that's where you start your database, and all pieces in the database have those 4 elements to them.
Wonderful. So what's number 2?
So number 2 is to follow a schedule.
And that
in real estate is never taught, is it?
No, it's not. It is so critically important.
The funniest story I heard in all the years of doing this is these top agents who, when they first got into the business, they would show up at the real estate office by 8:15 and there was no cars in the parking lot. And they'd look around and they say, oh my gosh, I've missed all the deals. Everybody's out doing real estate. Nobody's in the office. And that's not true, Craig. Unless there was donuts at the office, there's not a lot of realtors showing up at 8:15. So you choose your schedule, and this is a full-time job, and it's just like every other full-time job, even say a business full-time job that you own. You've got to operate at a certain schedule, time on, time off, and it's got to represent a good amount of time or enough time to reach your goals. Because you can be in real estate and be in part-time real estate, and that's okay. But if you have to feed your family off this industry, it's a full-time job, sometimes 60, 70 hours a week, because that's the way the cycle of real estate can be. So if you operate on a schedule, you know how many appointments you have available each week. When a new opportunity presents itself, if it doesn't fit into this week's schedule, you already know next week's schedule, so you can offer them that opportunity next week. So when you begin by having a start time and having appointment times and having family times and personal times, you run a schedule that not only fulfills your work obligations, but takes care of your family interests as well, whatever they may be. And then you still have time for your person, yourself, to take time to do whatever personally you need to recharge your energy to keep the game going. And so following a schedule gives you confidence and peace that you don't need to respond to every real estate transaction that pops up. Craig, somebody in your database that needs some help, you certainly would want to help them. But because they're in your database and you've nurtured them for a long time, their version of real estate is never an emergency situation.
Where ours is, well, we have to respond within minutes.
Some people think that, right? But if your database is built on a level that they know you'll be there for them, that's the reason you would build a database. Mm-hmm. That the confidence they have knowing that you'll be able to reach out to them predictably on your scheduled times, that comes from them knowing you. And in transactional pieces of business that we may encounter, we build that along the way, and it may or may not be where they grow into because the transaction happens quickly or it happens irregularly. It's easier to build relationships when it's not in the transaction.
Yeah. And for me, what I very much learned, and people have said this before, and it's in all sorts of books and all sorts of stuff, but time blocking for me is critical. My mornings are very strict in what I do. I'm actually one of those that is here by 7:30 though. But I'm here 7:30 to 1. And then I keep the afternoon open for all those appointments for whatever. Mm-hmm. Keep that part flexible. But if I don't have an appointment that day, you better believe I'm going to fill it.
And you'll find things to fill it.
And you have to strike that balance. Because when I first started off, I was stupid and was working 7 days a week and then be like, why am I burnt out on a Thursday? And so a lot of people think that the weekends are the most important days, and they are in a lot of ways. But I very much quickly learned that I don't have to work a Saturday. And Saturday became my no. Unless it's a $2 million house, no. Saturday's my day off.
Because you have a commitment during the week, you fulfill it.
Mm-hmm.
And you get results from the fulfilled commitment. And therefore, when the extra comes across your desk, you have a decision to make. Do I want that extra workload, or am I comfortable knowing what I do produces enough fruit for me?
Yeah.
Or predictably produces the fruit that I need?
So, what's number 3?
Who do you want to work with? People jump into this business and they say, I just do real estate. You got a commercial building, convenience store, apartment complex. You looking to buy investment properties? You looking to sell a house? Is it a luxury house? If you have no understanding of who the avatars are in your desired space, that's a great starting point. If I was going to meet a client, what would they be doing? Who am I best connecting with? Is it a school teacher? If you came from being a school teacher, that may be the best thing for you. Police officer, EMS, fire department. You may find that there's a ton of already defined rapport things that exist simply because you know who that person is, where they come from, where they work, what their decision is about, and you align with that. There are people who come into this industry who take every deal and end up with a vacant land listing, and they've never sold land before. And there'll be questions and learning curves around that irregular or not typical purchase or sale that require so much extra effort that it almost is better to rethink whether or not you want to be an expert in that field.
So what's number 4?
So number 4 is have some accountability. The schedule is partially accountable, but is there a group, an individual, a person who's not going to be like your boss. That's not what you're engaging in, but somebody who is a collaborator and who also finds himself seeking accountability and showing accountability through their leadership and just being a realtor, and seeing if you can align with them and be work partners, be some sort of connection piece. You can hire a coach. You can hire us. I mean, we run a coaching company. We can hire people and do weekly accountability sessions. We coach some of the top agents across North America, probably close to 600 million in production. So we've got some of that as well, but it doesn't have to be a paid coach. Though paid coaches have your interest, they'll show up for the appointment, right? That's part of the deal. They're accountable to us, but you as an accountability partner can partner with people just to be accountable. I mean, gosh, look at your dog. If you don't want to be accountable to people, look at Fido and tell Fido that you're going to count on him to motivate you to go to work every day, because without you, he'll get no food.
Ooh.
I don't know. That might be your accountability measure. But having accountability is key so that you, in times of weakness, can reach out to somebody as a lifeline and say, hey, I'm feeling weak in my commitments this week. What are you doing to stay on track of everything?
Yeah. And build it into your schedule.
How did last week go? How does next week look? If you're going to do something different next week to get a different outcome, what would that be? Like, that's the kind of dialogue accountability partners share with each other.
Yeah.
Well, good luck with that.
Yeah, and accountability partners can be a lot of different things. It could be a fellow agent. I use my team leader. But also accountability could be, for me, you run Scripts Jedi. So I know one way or another, I'm in the office by 8:30 because that's my unofficial start.
And that sort of slid into why the Scripts Jedi call became such a key piece, because not only did I could see the value for me as a trainer. I mean, I travel around the U.S. I train live in front of audiences, so I'm familiar with that. And on that training day, Craig, I am ready. Mm-hmm. But if I'm not on that training day, could I choose to do something else in the morning? Could I go to the gym for an hour extra and do a little extra stuff and not come back and get committed? Mm-hmm. But if I've made the commitment, I mean, Craig, you haven't been on the call since the beginning, but literally this is going on year 3 of never missing a day. Now, I didn't go out and do listing appointments every day. I did it. But I made sure that I was going to be consistent to be there, mainly because I looked around the room. I saw people like you and others who were gaining some consistency and use that as that sort of cornerstone for them to say, I got to start my day. Let me think about it. Let me listen to some new content with Chris, practice a little bit, and I'll be better off today. Mm-hmm. And that made us say, listen, we shouldn't take days off because, I mean, gosh, we have people in Canada. Their Thanksgiving was at the end of October or something. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, your Thanksgiving, your holiday cycle is different. And so we want to make sure that whenever those days are that you want to work, there's a resource for people to make it happen. And for me as a trainer, how much did I grow by running a daily training program?
He who teaches learns twice.
No one has done this. No one's done a daily event. People do audio, and that's one thing to do it, but interaction. How do you manage an audience? Obviously the final thing that you've got to learn, all of us have to learn, is the conversation pieces. What are we saying to the other humans that we interact with? And does it lead to the result that you want? And if it doesn't, just change the words and find that result. When you're looking to buy or sell, Craig, and you run into somebody, Craig, I know you're not looking to buy or sell, Craig, but when you do run into somebody, can I count on you to help me connect with them to be their realtor? Like, that's a script. What will you say to people to ensure that they remember you? And if you're going to do open house, you should figure out some conversations for open house.
Well, people forget that life is built in structures. Like, for heaven's sake, when you go to learn a new language, what do you first learn? Bonjour, comment ça va?
Bonjour.
Ça va bien. Bien, merci.
All the beginnings.
That's a script, and then people use it. Go into a restaurant. Hi, how you doing? I'm doing fine. 3, 3. Thank you.
It's just how it works, right?
Mm-hmm. So, what is the 5th?
Oh, I was the 5th. Scripts.
Oh, that was the 5th. Oh,
yeah,
Scripts.
Oh,
okay.
Scripts.
Oh, we slid
Scripts
right
is
into the fifth.
Yeah,
Okay.
I did that good, a little smooth transition.
I know. I was like, oh wow.
I didn't wait for the bell.
I'm like sitting here being like, did I miss him say number 5?
Get to this.
Okay.
Hell, he was a good guest. Maybe
Yeah. So number 5 was Scripts.
5 is Scripts.
Yeah.
Craig, the famous chicken place across the U.S. has the most awkward statement, but it is a programming statement for staff that's allowed me to be uncomfortable with my children. When they ask me, they say thank you, and I say, oh, it's my pleasure. Because my pleasure is a programming language for staff, though for us, the consumer of the chicken sandwich, we hear it, and it's like no restaurant in the world has ever said that until Chick-fil-A introduced it. But it was savvy because it wasn't for the consumer. It was for the employee.
Yeah.
Because they're programming themselves that being outside in July in a polyester uniform, taking orders for chicken sandwiches is going to be awesome.
Yeah.
It's so great.
Well,
but it's my pleasure.
A great example is Stephen Gendel. Every time he walks by in the morning, I'm like, hey, how you doing? He says, unbelievable.
Unbelievable.
And you always got, well, now I'm used to it. But I would be like, is that a good or a bad thing? And then it instantly engages you.
So the scripts are part of the real key. And if you show up at a job and you don't believe you have scripts, you're lying to yourself. We've always had scripts. You've always had conversation pieces that had some structure and guidance. Especially if you were in the service business, even if you weren't in the service business, you still did some types of dialogue with people regularly that didn't have a lot of variance. It was a consistent exchange of information that had words that were structured and allowed that person to hear what I had to say, understand if I needed anything, respond to me, and both of us move forward to the next chapter in that day. And so if you have an intention with words and ask questions and follow a pattern, those dialogues don't take too long, get to the point quickly, get results for you. And you may feel that freestyling gets you there in a way that you prefer, but yet I'll tell you, if you just do the rinse and repeat method and just keep going, you'll get there faster.
Well, thank you so much, Chris. We learned a lot today. So for all of you who want to get into this real estate game, those are the 5 things you really need to focus on. Database. I'm not going to do it in order. Database, accountability, scripts, schedule, and what was the 5th one?
The people. Who are you going to work with?
Oh, and
your avatars. That's my new favorite
who
phrase.
You want to work with.
You have to create an avatar. We should just say they're people, but now they're avatars. Yeah. So imagine who you want to work with. If it's first-time home buyers, if it's seniors, if it's relocatees, you decide. And just make a decision to go deep in those people. Talk to as many of them as you can, understand their predicaments, understand how you serve them to the outcome they've desired. And if you can't, how would you tell them about the differences in the way you know it will happen versus how they imagine? I imagine I'm just going to find the house that I want, and then I'll put my house on the market. Okay, it may look like that. Would you be okay selling your house at a discount because you had to buy one that you really loved and close on it quickly before yours sold? Like if we had to get an offer on yours quickly, you know how we do that, right? Make it the best appealing priced home in the neighborhood. Are you willing to sell at the lowest price in this neighborhood just by chance because you found the best house on the next block? Most people like to put their home on the market first and have the patience and time to make that decision. But I understand if you want to run by the seat of your pants and don't mind losing some money in the end because you need to do it a different way. I just wanted you to have the information.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much for coming on today.
What an honor. What an honor to be here, Craig. When you reached out to me, I am completely honored to be here, and I wish you the best and greatly appreciate you for coming on the call.
Thank you.
It's just being there, getting your business going.
I'll be there tomorrow.
All right, my friend. Right. I'll see you.
Thank you.